Yo, dude.
Hey,
Yo, bro.
how's it going?
Yeah, it's going pretty good. Going good. How you doing?
Doing good. It's my day off this week, so.
Nice. I just had mine yesterday, and I actually took it for the first time in a long time.
Nice.
So since we talked last week, how have things been going for you?
Okay, so I've been trying to practice the macro build, like the transitions and stuff,
Yeah.
but I feel like in the couple games I've played, I have one. Okay, I have a couple good, interesting replays. I have one that feel like I macroed really well and I'm winning pretty like late game. Um, but I feel like I lose a lot to like early game pushes that I either am just concentrating too much on like my timings and just not paying attention
Mm-hmm.
to what the other person is doing, and I
Yeah.
just get like caught off guard, or like I just have a few too many stalkers, or just like miss macro and lose one too many colossus in like the first attack, or something like that. And if I lose like the first couple units, it just like feels really bad.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
yeah, I think that's just where it's been.
so I think a lot of the ways that you'll be able to figure out how you can make yourself be a lot safer with that. It definitely has. It's kind of fragile because you're playing a little like the opener is a little greedy. Because
Right,
you're taking like a third so fast, but like
right.
if you get away with it early, which I think Protoss has the ability to this patch especially, then you just run away with the game after that point. It's really hard for turn after that because the reason why is because you have now that you have like battery and you have overcharge battery, all you have to do is
Yes.
you have to pay attention to your hallucinated scout. And then you look at their base and you go, okay, what's going to make sense here? Like, is he going to do a tank timing? Is he going to do a bio push? Is he going to do widow mine drops? Like, is it going to be actually a harass with a third base? Or is it going to be a full-fledged timing? And if it's going to be a harass with a third, you don't really need to make batteries to really be okay. But uh, if it's a if it's like a full on fucking two base all in, you definitely do need to make battery. Like maybe one battery at your third and one battery at your natural, and then have the army like kind of positioned in a way where maybe you have like a zealot forward, maybe you have a pylon forward in front of your bases so you can see where he's coming from faster, or maybe you just have your army like in a really good area where it's between both.
Okay.
We
Because
could, yeah,
I've definitely lost games
yeah.
where
Thank you for the
I
raid,
didn't
Rushy.
have
Thank you,
like a
man.
forward scouting unit or a pylon or something, and he like dropped my base and pushed my third at the same time or something, and I
Yeah,
just didn't know what to do.
we could talk about it. The hardest part of it will definitely of this build will definitely be getting past or getting to a point where you feel comfortable with the harass, for sure.
Yeah.
And if it really comes down to it, just for like just to make it easier for you and make it more comfortable to like get used to it, we could even alter the build a little bit to where maybe we delay your upgrades even a little bit longer and we just add in more gateway production faster. So
Okay.
you'll have like a higher stalker count faster and stuff like that, and like just more units to be able to defend harass. That's always an option, just to make it more comfortable. But
Okay.
yeah, we could jump into a replay and stuff and check it out. I'll give you some ideas, but it definitely it if you just get past the opener though, the more aggressive they are when you hold it, the more ahead you are at that point. And like obviously anyone understands that concept, but it's actually insane though. By how much of a powerful timing you explode into when you go into Storm and Colossus, that whole combination, the 2-2 Storm Colossus timing, and then it goes into 3-3 and you have transitions from there. Like, it's just nuts, though, with the 2-2 Storm timing. Most Terrans just die.
Yeah. No, I'm super excited to one day get that timing.
Okay. All right. So if you're on, just go ahead and send me a message, and we'll get and just do. There you go. Perfect. And we'll set it up, dude.
Okay.
And we actually get to watch a replay online together now. It's not because of the patch.
Yeah.
Wow.
Actually, okay. So
Chihuahua,
watch this. This
please.
is my loss. This is the
Yo,
one where I just
Chihuahua.
completely
Larissa,
multi-prong.
thank you very much for
And
the
I
bits.
have a feeling, and I didn't really do an in-depth review of this by myself. I have a feeling I missed a couple warping timers, and I lost my first two Colossus, which was just I macroed them away from the shield batteries.
Sure.
But
Yeah, no, that dude.
oh,
Oh my
Sorry.
god, what did you do? Okay, well now everything's messed up.
Rookie mistake.
It's all good.
I can just rehost.
Yeah. It's actually insane though. If you actually just pop a Guardian Shield and then you pop the Shield Battery Overcharge, it's stupid. It's so ridiculously. Your Colossus can just stand there, and it will not die.
Excellent.
All right, let's do this. Okay, so we'll look at what's going down here. I would say the only time you actually have to back your Colossus up though, like you can micro it a little bit. Like it doesn't take a lot of micro. Just like you back up a little bit and make his army come into you deeper. That is gonna like it just runs into the gateway and it's more and starts dying faster. So he doesn't get as much uptime. But if it's not a bunch of tanks and if it's not a bunch of marauders, you don't really need to micro the stock or the Colossus that much. Literally, it's just Guardian Shield and battery. And then it's just fucking insane. So I would definitely recommend if you actually scout somebody, this is a tip too that you could do for yourself that would be kind of nice. If you scout that somebody's going to be really aggressive with one of your first sentries, the hallucinations, and you're like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely expecting some heavy aggression here, and it's not just like Widow Mines or Hellions. You could even make a second sentry. Just so that you could always still scout him with hallucination whenever you have that one sentry scouting him, but then you always have a second sentry there to always guarantee you have Guardian Shield.
And what are some like characteristics of a really aggressive build? Like early gases.
Anything
like
that's not 1/1/1. Anything that's not 1/1/1.
Okay. Anything that's not 1/1/1.
If it's not 1/1/1 into a third command center, you're gonna get attacked.
Okay.
And it's just variations of what it's gonna be then. But it's always going to be an attack if it's not 1/1/1. If it's 3 racks early, definitely an attack. If it starts as 1/1/1, but then it adds on more racks and stuff like that, it's definitely going to be an attack. If it starts off as 1/1/1, like so it could always be a really heavy bio attack or a really heavy mech attack right off the bat. If it's like obviously mech is multiple factory, bio is 3 racks opener, like the hardcore versions of it. But then if it goes 1/1/1, it's going to always open with a harass. And then it comes down to your second hallucinated scout with your Phoenix, from your sentry, that you can see, okay, does he have a third CC yet? Or does he have just more racks or something? Or more, is he actually going to a unit producing switch now really fast? And if he is going into anything besides a third command center, you're going to get attacked. And that's definitely when, if you don't have them already, you need to make a battery. At both of your natural and your third. You don't really need one in your main, just because your main, ideally, your main you'll have vision around your main, so you can see him coming from further away. And then if he goes to your main, you'll be able to react to him like as he's in the process of dropping you. Like that's why this is something I'll recommend to you this game around too. Is when we get there in a second, it'll be pylon net vision. That's not just in your main anymore. Like once you have like a good coverage of your base with pylon fields that you can build with, and you don't really have like this awkward like everything's stacked on one pylon in my base and that's it. So you have like a nice spread of pylons.
Right.
You can start building pylons like maybe your like 10th pylon or something, or like your 9th pylon like out of your base, like in a way like this right here, where you're like putting a net like that around your base.
Yeah, a lot of times I'll put one like down on like my 5th, 6th base, like on the corners or whatever. But a lot of times I'll just forget while I'm doing other stuff.
Sure.
But.
Yeah, that'll definitely be something that'll make you feel more confident though against people who do 2 base. And it's something you should look at too, and it should be a trigger in your mind that goes, oh, he's going for no third CC. He's going for heavy amounts of units. That should be like, okay, let's start making a pylon net right now. That's how I react to that. Because I'm playing greedy, and I would much rather lose a pylon to know where he is than not know where he is, and suddenly I lose a nexus and a bunch of probes. So yeah, that should definitely be your trigger for that. Probe at your naturals a bit too early.
I don't know what I was doing with this.
Yeah, it's all good. I sometimes do that myself. I bet you were probably just thinking about some other shit or you're distracted. It's all good. But yeah, always send your your probe that is the 19th probe, that your supply hits 20 as the probe builds. It's because the 20th probe is now in production. That probe always runs down to the natural and builds it, and you'll have like no wait time.
Right, which is what I normally do. This is, I don't know why I done that one.
It's all good. I believe you, because I do it too sometimes.
I thought I won that because I thought I got an auto attack on it while he was building.
Yeah, no, you're all good. I believe you on that too. Yeah, no, it's like you actually don't know what he's doing now entirely. Like it could be a lot of stuff, but I think you're just gonna. I would imagine you're probably gonna play this game out from the assumption that he is probably just gonna do like a Reaper expand, because most people do, and I feel like you're gonna confirm that as soon as you get attacked by the Reaper. Like you're like, oh, yep, he made a Reaper, so it doesn't look out of the ordinary. Obviously, though, it's not more ideal. I don't want to harp on you. I would harp on you a lot more if you were like Gold League right now about that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I feel like you already understand that, so it's all good.
Yeah. As soon as it died, I was like, frick, dude. Because like I didn't see if it expanded or anything.
This is a Masters League, by the way, guys.
All right, well, flipping the coin on that one.
Yeah, it's all good. It happens. And then chrono boosting your Stalker or Adept.
Do you like Stalker or Adept?
I like Stalker better. So just know this: if you go Adept, you should always attack with it. Like you should. The reason. Okay, here's one of the big things I like, and this is better defensively in my opinion. The Adept doesn't guarantee you're gonna get damage done, because if the Terran is good and he builds a bunker early enough, he's gonna shut your Adept down so easy. And then the Adept should always be followed by a Stalker, and then it will be followed by a Sentry, I would say. But if you just open Stalker and go Sentry second, your scout timings are all faster. So you can react in a way that's just better, because you can do everything you need to do like an extra like 30 seconds faster now. So I like Stalker first because I like going immediately into a Sentry, which gives me the safety of knowing what to expect. But if you go Adept first, you have to attack with it. It does not make sense to just sit there defensively with it. Like you can initially defend the Reaper until your Stalker's out, and then you go right away. But again, if they just have a bunker, if they don't have a bunker, it's great. It's super good, and you're like, wow, I just fucked up and killed like 2 ACVs. I killed the Reaper. This is great. But if they do have a bunker, you just walk over there and you're like, okay, I didn't do anything, and it just feels really bad. So I'm like I just feel like the Adept is a little bit more of a gamble, and it's also less effective versus better Terrans. So I think the Adept is just something that'll start. Like I'm not saying it's bad. I just think it's safer more often to go Stalker. Like it gives you it's like it's basically in your hands when you go Stalker. It's in your opponent's hands when you go Adept. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Alright, so there comes the Reaper. Now you know it's standard of what should be happening. And then the second your second pylon's done as well. Hold on. I want to see your chronos. What happened with your chronos? I feel like I missed your chrono.
I thought I used...
did you double chrono after your first pylon?
Okay, so I know I chrono after my first.
I'm gonna see what you do. Because there should only be one chrono between the first pylon and the second pylon. So you should chrono right now in your Nexus.
You're right.
I think you do soon. Okay, there you go. It was a little late, but yeah. Definitely chrono your first Nexus on the mineral line, so because you get 16 out of 16 super fast that way, and then every probe after that can just fill up the gas. And then you do not chrono again until second pylon's done. But I don't know if you chronos twice here, and if you do, that's gonna fuck your build up a bit. Just kind of speed forward. Probes are taking damage. There's your core. So you chrono again right now. This chrono should not be happening right now. Did you actually just miss probe production at one point as well?
Yeah, I think it was a couple seconds. Yeah. I think I was saving for my.
It's because it's because you built the natural
like
at 19.
Here I stop.
Yeah. So your
Yeah,
build
got
got kind of
probed.
fucked up. So yeah, make sure that your first two pylons are like the second they finish. That's the trigger for the chrono boost. So you know always be like the second the first pylon's done, you just immediately you can afford the gate, and then you immediately chrono, even before you start the gas. Just
Right.
chrono the Nexus like right away, and then you start the gas, and then you do not chrono again until the second pylon's done, and the second pylon's done, you actually double chrono. You chrono the Nexus and the gate at the same time, because
Right. Oh,
that is right when you're gonna have 100, because you'll generate 150 energy right at that point in time, like up to that
okay.
point. So because your first chrono will be 100 or the 50 energy to be the first pylon, then you'll generate another 100 right as the core and the pylon finish, which should be finishing right around the same time, because you're going to be going pylon gate gas pylon, or sorry, pylon gate gas nexus core gas pylon. That's the whole build, and then so
Hmm.
you're building the second pylon last out of that whole set, and then that core and the pylon should be finishing right at the same time. And then that's when it unlocks your supply and your tech to go stalker, and then now continue. Now you'll be at 23 out of 23 as well at that point, and you'll have the like right then you'll unlock your supply barely just to go beyond that with probes. So then you chrono again, and this way you'll have a really as quick as possible saturated main. And this makes a big deal because the faster you saturate your main properly, it's really based on your gas. So you can do things like build your robo faster, build your sentry faster. Your stalker will always be built because it's 50 gas, but it really comes down to like, are you actually gonna be able to afford a really quick robo and a really quick sentry after your stalker though? And you won't if you don't actually prioritize your gas like this with having correct chronos. So those are huge at developing your
Okay.
tech faster, um, and then yeah, from there it's just you'll chrono your Nexus, and at that point it's no longer chronoing your gas. The second chrono on your Nexus is going to be your gases are full now, and you'll be chronoing for the mineral line at your natural. That is also like similar to when your natural is going to finish. Your natural probably finishes like 10 seconds later, and then obviously the second it's done, chrono the Nexus at the natural too. You just do that
Right.
immediately, and then you'll that way by the time the robo is done, and you're starting like robo bay, you should already have like 10 probes on the mineral line at the natural at least. Like by the time you start making your first like Colossus, you should already have a fully saturated natural. Like we're talking
Okay.
like 20 probes ish or more if you're really efficient with it, probably like fully saturated with gas included.
Okay.
Foes are attacking our probes.
So yeah, because I was feeling like something was messed up here for sure about the chrono energy, and yeah, that's what it was. And then going forward, we'll go back to this point. All right, now you zone them out, and then I think your third pylon should definitely be in front of your natural at the ramp, and then pylons 4 and 5 could be on the edges of your base to scout like top left of your natural for a drop, and then maybe I actually like the gateway spot you put because you can see the drop decently there. Maybe put a pylon where your sentry is as well, so that you can see the Reaper or the drop. But I think you killed the Reaper, so it's fine. But still, seeing drops coming from there would be cool too. And like right now, okay. So I actually don't mind this for now. I think what you're doing right now is actually, I'm gonna say keep doing this. I was actually gonna say, I think you should only make one gate extra when you make the robo. Normally that's what you will do. You pair the robo and the gate together. But
Mm.
I'm gonna say for now, because you're feeling a little uncomfortable about the early game, you can go ahead and build honestly 2 gates with the robo. So you'll go up to 3. I think that's actually a good number for you to just get comfortable with it, and then
Okay.
you'll just ramp up your stalker count faster. And then normally I'll also tell you to stop making stalkers at like 10. That's the idea.
Okay.
Is you just stop making stalkers at 10. But if you go to 3 gates from now on, stop making stalkers at like 15. Just
Okay.
you're gonna make about 5 stalkers per gate essentially, and then now just add in an extra 5 because you make a third gateway. Because like you don't want to make you don't want to make zealots too fast, because with this build
Right, 'cause-
your charge is super late.
right. Without charge zelts are just
Exactly.
bad
Yeah.
units.
Yeah. And then if you just have more stalkers, you'll just have more power in your army there right away, so you'll have more shit to work with. If you're worried about, oh fuck, he's gonna all in me, or he's gonna do some 2 base heavy aggression, you'll just have, since you have more stalkers there, chances are higher that you're gonna hold that. But you'll all of your timings though. There is obviously a cost somewhere, right? And all of your timings now will be a little bit more delayed. Your forges will be a little bit more delayed. Your council will be a little more delayed. That will be the trade-off. So your storm will be a little bit more delayed. So you'll have more power right away to defend, but yeah, your timings of tech will be slower. But it'll make you feel safer. It should make you feel safer because because you won't have those timings anyways when you first get attacked.
Okay.
And then what else was I gonna say? I was gonna say yeah, fuck. I like literally was thinking about two things I was gonna tell you, and then as I was saying the first thing, and then I just fucking forgot. So if I come back to it, I'll tell you again.
All right.
Okay, so
yeah, I don't put my third pylon in front either.
what do you think this? What do you think this is so far? Like so far, what do you? Or I'll let you get there. And now, okay, now what do you feel like this is gonna be?
So I literally just thought I was just gonna Hellion run by Mia, like at a minimum, it's just a Hellion run by.
Yeah.
Because I see two. I see his reactor. He's building two more probably. He could medevac drop.
Yep.
But I feel like because don't a lot of medevac drops you proxy the starport?
No.
Or no?
Nope.
Okay.
Proxy starport honestly would be usually because he also proxy the factory if he's gonna drop you. But proxy starport honestly, when they don't proxy the factory, usually means Banshee or Liberator.
Okay.
So if I was you, this is what I would say about this build. And I think you're not wrong when you say he's just going to run Hellions in your base or maybe a drop. I think that the perfect way to defend this would be if you did build your third pylon at your ramp of your natural, and then you built your robo and your gate, or since you go double gates for now, you can build your double gate at the door of your natural. Just so you create a door that's like kind of like how you play against Zerg, where you have a stalker in the doorway and you're like, you can't get in my base now.
Right.
Just leave one stalker in the door. Just one. And you don't move it. And then this is until the harass happens. And then the rest of your army is more centralized, kind of where the ramp is up in your main base, like the top of the ramp, like on that platform. And then now you can run to the right real easy and pick off a drop if it is a drop, and you can easily catch the Hellions if they try to go for your probes. Or you can, if he drops your natural, same thing. They can easily go down the ramp and catch the Hellions if they try to kill the probes. They're just centralized. And you don't hotkey the stalker in your door because it could be a thing where he goes for like 4 Hellions and a medevac with like 2 Widow Mines. So maybe he does a drop with like 2 Widow Mines in your middle line, and then he tries to run 4 Hellions in your base up your ramp at the same time, and he tries to like drop your main and 4 Hellion run by your natural. That could happen. Like he's going to be doing some variation, or maybe he has a Liberator go into your main base and he tries to run 4 Hellions in your natural. It's going to be either a fully committed drop, or it's going to be a multi-prong drop and run by. That's the only choices that he has, and that all that the choice is Jesus, I said is like 5 times right there. All the choice is he's going to go for a 4 unit or a 6 unit opener out of his factory. There's no guarantee on either one of those. Right. He could do either one. So it's either going to be a combination drop plus run by, or it's just going to only be a drop.
Okay.
And then there's always the oddball chance there could be a Liberator instead of a drop, so it could be 4 units out of the factory and then a Liberator as well. So having the ability to have your natural covered because you don't let him just run into your base is pretty important.
Right.
Because I would be scared right now seeing Hellions that you don't have a door in front of your natural. It's It's something that I feel like a Protoss player, when you start playing greedy, you don't really respect that. But once you do start playing greedy, you're like, yeah, too many times have I let my probes all die. Let's start fucking walling it off.
Never a truer word said.
Yeah. Alright, and then you have your... Okay, so this is another thing too. I'm going to look at the time of how late your Robo Bay is delayed. So your Robo finishes at 3:58. And now, you should ideally have the... like, at this point, there should be no reason why you don't have enough gas. And if you don't have enough gas, it's probably because your gas is somehow undersaturated in some ways.
Yeah, I literally took a probe off my gas.
I know that.
To put it back on.
I know. I do that too. And I'm not talking about that exactly. I'm talking about like the saturation of your initial gas with the chronos. But I think it's fine that you're building like a pylon and then you go right back to the gas because I see the ship command on it. But you should have, and also you have a double observer queued up right now. You should have enough gas to build the Robo Bay like right away, and because that like you're gonna realize too that is also a big reason why if you're ever dying, that's why you're also dying. You cannot delay those Colossus or the Disruptor if it's a tank push. Like those are what's gonna keep you alive, and if you can have 2 of them by the time it shows up, if it is like a 2 base all in, that's fucking huge. Like if you only have the 1 every time, that definitely means you're delaying your tech a little bit too long.
Okay.
So yeah, like it finished at 358, and you're not throwing them the Robo Bay until. Because I did notice this was delayed. Because I noticed I was looking at your gates and your Robo both under construction, and then now the fact that an observer was out and then your gates were turning into warp gates and you still hadn't started a Robo Bay. That's when I went back and looked at that and I was like, okay, that seems very delayed. And so far it's 30 seconds delayed, and counting. Yeah. It's 40 seconds delayed, literally. Right. So that is, and if you think about 40 seconds delayed, that is about the build time of the building itself. It's 46 seconds. So at 4 minutes and 44 seconds, it could be starting a Colossus right now. Right now. And a Colossus build time is about a minute as well. So you're going to be throwing chrono boosts at your Colossus as well. So if your opponent attacks you around 6 minutes, you could have guaranteed 2 Colossus. If he attacks you around 6 minutes and you only have, ideally, or right now, you'll probably only have like the 1, maybe, because you're starting the Robo Bay now. And here he comes with a bunch of Hellions. You saw it with your observers. I love that you're building your gates now. So I feel like you understand that concept. The perfect thing to do now, I would say, would be maybe back your sentries up, because your sentries are definitely going to die, and they don't need to be here for this.
Okay.
Because if you leave them in the army here, if I was the Terran, the way I would abuse you, and look at the Liberator, that's exactly what we're talking about. He's doing exactly the combination we talked about. So what I would do right now if I were you is I would take my 1 gate that's ready to go, and I would warp in a new stalker in the main base. I would send my other one of my stalkers from the natural to my main base, and maybe even bring both sentries, whatever. And I would just have these 2 stalkers in the front in a hold position. Just leave them in hold position so they don't move out of the door. But you already have the front 2 in the perfect wall spot. And then you just you run the probes in the main for a sec because of the Liberator. And then you get rid of it, and then there you go. And now you're going to kill the Liberator, and then you go right back to mining after that. And the 2 stalkers are not going to die to 6 Hellions. And if they do die, it's going to be because he trades his Hellions to the point to where he's not going to really kill probes after he kills a stalker.
Okay.
But if you leave your sentries in the door, guaranteed he's going to kill them. If he pushes, or he's going to, there you go, and he's killing some probes. It's annoying for you. He actually, he's definitely not focus firing your sentries. He totally could be. Overall, all said and done, not the worst defense, not the cleanest defense, but it's not the worst defense. If you just scout what we were talking about, you're like, oh, 1-1-1. And he's got a reactor on the factory. That is always a big indicator of, yeah, he's definitely going to do a harass. And it's going to be either double multi-prong and main and natural together, or it's just going to be a drop. And if the fact that if you would have seen Widow Mines, I would have definitely been like, yeah, chances are way higher that it's a medevac, and that it's going to be just a drop. The fact that you saw Hellions, now chances are really high that it's going to be a multi-prong, or it could just be a Hellion drop. It still could be always a drop, but now with Hellions, it's always really high. It's higher chance that it's a multi-prong.
Okay.
And you also have to realize, too, that when a Terran goes 1-1-1 and they react to the factory, you see no add-on on the racks, and you see no add-on on the starport. That guarantees that he got a very fast add-on for the factory, just, and then he's not wasting money on other stuff. So he not only has he not committed into his follow-up after his harass, so he hasn't chosen mech or bio yet, but he's also maximizing the amount of money that he can invest into his timing. And the fact that he made a starport, and he never made an add-on on the racks for the starport, and he never made an add-on on the starport, he doesn't just have an add-on. It means the barracks literally stopped building shit again for the starport now, because he's so hyper invested into the factory. So that guarantees that it's not going to be a Viking first. It guarantees that it's going to be a medevac or a liberator. So you can, yeah, it's just guaranteed pressure. This dude is 100% committed into his harassment. So that's why I'm really a big advocate on saying your third pylon should your third pylon should always be in front of your natural. And if you throw it, if you just get in the habit of throwing down your gateways 4 and 5, if that's just gateways 2 and 3, you're going to be so much better off at dealing with things like this, because I think gateways 4 and 5 right now before your third base, this is now too many gateways. And now you're, as I was saying before, your tech was going to be delayed. Now it's going to be massively delayed if you were actually to utilize these gates.
Yep.
And then try to always remember as well to start your Robo Thermal Lance upgrade as soon as you start building Colossus. And always get in the habit as well of starting Colossus with Chrono Boost. Like, you should only be chronoing Colossus right now, and you should be doing it like do it about 3 times in a row.
Okay.
And then after you chrono your, so you'll just do it like this, okay? We'll talk about chronos, and we'll make your chronos really basic, and we'll make your chronos very safe. This should be how your chronos are spent. Your Nexus, your gate, your Nexus, and then your Nexus and your gate together. As we talked about in the very beginning. And then you just do Nexus, 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 all your Nexuses repeatedly until you get your fully saturated natural really fast. And by the time your natural gets fully saturated, you're going to already have a third started, and you're going to have a Robo Bay about to finish. Or it's like finishing as your natural gets up to full saturation. Right around when you're at 20 probes on the natural is when the Robo Bay should be finishing, if you're doing it properly. And then, the second the Robo Bay is done, 3 chronos, no, stop chronoing in the Nexus altogether now. 3 chronos, 1 by 1 by 1 into the Robo facility for Colossus. And you'll get 2 Colossus out very fucking fast. Roughly by around 6 minutes, you'll have 2 Colossus already out. And you don't even have one. One's halfway done right now, or a little bit more than halfway done. So your Colossus are super delayed right now. You'll have 2 Colossus out with like 3 chronos on the Robo facility. Then at this point now too, you should have a decently saturated third. It should be like already going up. And because as you start chronoing Colossus, you're still building probes for now your third base that are just being built automatically. So your third base should be well under saturation at this point, because it's also 3 Nexus, which is super fast at how it can go. So then after your 3 chronos of Colossus, it should go into now 3 chronos onto your Twilight Council first only, to go for a very fast blink upgrade. This is like the safer way to do it. A lot of times I tell you to do like maybe 1 or 2 on the Twilight Council, and then just go really fast forge upgrades, which is greedier, because those aren't going to take effect until later. The blink is definitely a stronger option right now because it gives you faster blink, faster charge. Those are way more impactful upgrades than 1-1 is. But having all of them together is also very nice. So until you get really comfortable with it, 3 chronos on Colossus, and then immediately go 1 right after that. Now start doing 3 chronos into your Twilight Council, so you get a super fast blink upgrade.
Blink.
And then let your charge just kind of go, like let it just finish as it does. And then now from that point on, just double chrono, forge, 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 forge until you're 3-3.
Okay.
And then that'll be if you can chrono that way, that'll be a super effective way to just spend your chronos for maximum amounts of safety.
Okay, cool.
Alright, and then like things like your natural too. How you have 2 probes missing on the gas. Okay, there you go. As I said, stuff like that is huge. So you definitely want to make sure that never happens, because your gas is actually getting stretched super thin.
Yeah.
Alright, and then now you see. Okay, so Tank Marine. There are 2 ways to deal with this, and I'm gonna tell you, like I will say right now, you don't have to go Disruptors against this, because you're getting used to the build, and you can just try going Colossus for now. But I would say if you ever see someone going tanks, don't feel like going for Disruptors actually is a little bit better, and don't feel like you can't do that. You could definitely start going into Disruptors if you want to, because the thing about Disruptors is they build a lot faster than Colossus do, And they also are just better than Colossus are. And the reason why is because you can actually outrange tanks with disruptor shots. And you can just straight
Really?
up kill
Wait.
tanks. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I thought they were like
No-
similar range.
No, it's super similar range, but if you do a disruptor shot at the maximum range of a disruptor, you can actually be in fog of war to a tank, and you can blow up a fucking tank. And
That's insane. Wait,
you-
I never did that.
you can and if you, it takes a little bit more than a little bit more than one shot to kill a tank, because the tank will live with like it's like 15 hit points or so
Right.
after a disruptor shot. So like if you have 2 shots, it'll one shot a tank together.
And you use the disruptor shots for the tanks, not
Yep.
just the
Yeah.
bio.
So
to
if
push
it's more of like a judgment call, but you should usually kill the tank. If you shoot a disruptor shot, and it's like he's got 20 bio units, and you can kill 4 bio units in any clump of 4, or you can kill a tank, kill a tank, because it's better. It's more impactful to kill a tank there. Because if you kill the tank, he has no siege ability, and you can just sit there on a battery and be like, yeah, if you bring the bio forward, I'm just gonna run you over with the guardian shield and shield battery. But the tank is scary.
Okay.
But if you ever
Yeah.
shoot out a shot and he's got like 15 bio units and a ball right there, you could be like, well, how about I just kill the bio and then I could just run the tank over with my gateway units, because that's a lot of bio that's just going to die right there.
Yep.
So it's a judgment call, but yeah, tank usually is the right call with disruptor. And that's, again, the reason why I just said disruptor is so good. That's why. It's fucking nuts. So if you're proactive about how you use your disruptors, you can definitely pick his tanks off with... And also, think about this too. If he's tank sieging you on your base, and you do have a battery, you should always just get in the habit too. No matter what, always make a battery at your third. Just always do it, because your third is always like it's very likely going to be the point to get attacked very often for when you play against Terran. If you make a battery at your third, and he attacks you with tanks, and now suddenly he's starting to, like, let's just say the situation didn't go the best for you, and you don't realize he's there until he's there, and you're like, oh fuck, he's sieging my third, okay, I gotta go deal with it now. You could shove him back a little bit with your existing Colossus you have and your stalkers, and now you're starting to chrono out disruptors. And so he's gonna get some uptime on your Nexus, but ideally you're gonna not just let him full on kill it with all of his bio. You'll shove his bio back, so he has to rely on more tank shots, which will take longer. But then suddenly you get disruptors. If it comes to a point where your disruptor has to actually engage the tank, and let's say he has vision of the disruptor, he will be able to shoot the disruptor at maximum range because he can see you, because he has something spotting in front as well. But even if you're next to the Nexus and you have a battery and you get shot by the tank once or twice, if the battery's healing you every time you get shot by a tank, your disruptor lasts long enough anyways to get a shot off. So if you have 2 disruptors launching a shot at like 1 or 2 tanks, you'll easily kill the tank, and then suddenly once that tank's dead, all of the pressure is gone.
So in this kind of situation, if I wanted to go into disruptors, would I just not get my second Colossus here?
I
and
would
stop
say,
thermal
yeah,
land?
I would say ideally you should already have 2 out. Ideally,
Right,
because
right,
your robo's a
ideally.
bit delayed. But and like maybe your scout should have gone faster too. This is why the first 2 scouts of your sentry are super important, and like the build up to this point is super important. But because you want to figure that out super early. But if you ever see, oh yeah, he's going Tech Lab Factory, that's all you need to know. Go disruptors.
Okay.
Because he's not going to make a Tech Lab Factory and then not make tanks. Like if he's going bio, he's going to make tanks out of that. It's not going to be Cyclones,
Right.
and it's not going to be Thors.
Yeah.
So that's your indicator right there. And if we were to back up the game a little bit, we can come back to it really fast. But let's just watch. So your first scout is in his base right now. Let's watch your sentry and see how long it takes you to scout his second. That's the second time. Because I feel like you might miss it, and you even make a second sentry, which is nice. I like that, just for the ability to have Guardian Shield. I actually don't want to. I'm not going to base the scout off of your second sentry you just made. I'm going to base it off your first one. So the 50 energy, 60 energy one right now. And right now, you could start the scout. And it takes, I would say, probably like 20 seconds to get across the map. So if you, it's not super easy to have the foresight to be like, scout now, while I'm getting attacked by a Liberator and Hellions.
Right.
But, think about this though. Look at everyone's vision right now, and you can see he already has the Tech Lab Factory. And then we'll go back to your vision, and we'll see how long it takes you to scout though. And again, I'm looking at the sentry right now that has 75 energy, and it should scout right now. This should always be your goal, is every time it has 75, scout, scout, scout. And this will tell you exactly what your opponent's doing. And you could see with what he's doing, he's gone for a third CC first. This is why the scouts is very, very important. You can see the third CC timing. You can see the fact that he's now going. He is actually going to go into Marines because he's got a reactor committed to the barracks. He's committed to bio too because he's making a second and third racks right now. And you can see that he prioritized a command center first with also the ability to now go for reactor starport units and tanks. You would see everything about his build. You would know that this build is harass based, or it's harass based into economy. It's not all in, but it is tank based. So you could make disruptors now as a response to this, and then you could just go stalker zealot, or mostly stalker disruptor for now, and then eventually start making zealots, and your disruptors would just pound tanks like crazy. And then you could have battery guardian shield stalkers just wipe out his bio easy peasy, because you guys got to realize too, if you saw this build and he does do a tank timing, you would also know. Dude, his stim pack is so far away. His combat shield is so far away. All that stuff is so far away because he committed so hard into the aggression of harassment, and then he also committed into a third CC, and then he's going multiple barracks, and again he's not committed into stim pack. He's committed into siege tank. So his bio units are garbage for a very long time. They're basically just going to be designed to cover his tanks for now.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then, again, that scout should be happening right now, and you would figure this out at 5:35, roughly. Because, again, it would take about 20 seconds to get across the map and get into his base. And, again, you even have the observer in his base, too, which I don't really want you to do that much. I want you to rely more on Hallucinated Phoenix, because I feel like, here's the interesting thing, too, about mindset. The fact that you have an observer in his base, I feel like probably also makes you feel good about the fact that you oversighted it. It's nice that you can see the front of his composition in his base, but now you're going to be probably a little lazier about scouting him with the sentry because you don't feel like it's as required.
Yep.
So I feel like the observer, maybe I almost would prefer you to leave your observers kind of like how you do with the one below your main. Have another one like over here on the side of your third base, so you can see drops easier, and you can just see more of the map around your base. So it makes you feel more comfortable defensively. But then you're relying, because you don't need to see every single unit he's making at all times. You just need to know how fast was that third command center, which you could find out right now, and what composition is he going for. And you can look at the add-ons for that, and also buildings themselves. Because by the time the scout would get there, the second racks would be done. Like, so let's just assume, okay, you scouted through his base with shift command, and then you don't actually micro it, and you don't look at it either, because you're like, I'm killing Hellions and I'm killing Liberators. But then you're like, oh fuck, I didn't actually look at my Phoenix, and it died. But I did at least see if I ran through his base, even though I physically wasn't looking at it. You could just look at his base right now again and go, oh, he's got multiple racks, he's got a tech lab on that factory, and he's got, you know, a third command center that's almost done. So that third CC is like it's relatively as fast as my third Nexus. So he's definitely playing a macro game. He's not playing an all-in game of he's already got 5 racks done and no third CC at all. And then the fact that you see the big one is the 3 things I really want you to look at when you scout, just quick, is he going racks or factories? That's number 1. Number 2 is where is his third command center, and is it done, and how early was it? And like, is it just starting after he's got a bunch of buildings, or is it done already and then he's starting a bunch of buildings? And then the third one is what add-on is on his factory. Those 3 things are all you got to look at, so you can know if he's going Bioremech, if he's going all in or not, and if he's going tanks or not.
Okay.
Because tanks or not does not have to mean all in or not. Tanks is just a supporting unit. Not everybody does it, but if he chooses to do it, I do think you should always eventually go Colossus, but you can open with like 3 or 4 disruptors and then go tanks. Or sorry, and then go Colossus because of tanks.
Okay.
And then once you get, I'm not going to recommend this yet, but once you get higher level, we're talking once you're like 5.5 KMMR or like 5.2 KMMR or something up there. Like once you're like GM status, basically. If you see a Terran going for Ghost, Heavy Marauder, and Viking, which is basically like, hey, if you go Colossus, you're fucking dead. Then go back, and you need AoE on the ground again, and it's also kind of scary because Templars can get countered by Ghost. That's when you go. That's the only other time I would say against Bio that you go back into Disruptors again. But
Okay.
that's definitely not. You're not going to play Terrans like that right now. I guarantee it. You're going to play Terrans that are going to kind of just die to your push for now, But that will eventually start happening to you once you get to about 5k MMR. Some Terrans will be able to start doing that to you. But yeah. So your scout, again, at this point, should have kind of already, you know, like I said, at 5:35, you should have already had a scout in his base, which means at 5:15, you had enough energy, and your sentry died, as we talked about earlier, how I was like, you should pull your sentries back, because it will definitely die to the Hellions. The one that could have scouted actually did die, and then you casted a force field at the other one, because you were getting paranoid there. And now your scout at 5:35, that should have happened, is now, you're now finally available to do another scout at 6 minutes. And now look at 6 minutes. He's got so much more shit going on. He already has a tank out. He's already making a second tank. All of his add-ons are already pretty much done. Like, he's got another Rax that's finishing that's going to probably lift over to that reactor. Stuff like that. Like, you still could see, though, that this is not all in, because you'd still see the third CC. But now your disruptor timing would be later, so instead of having, like, at least 2 disruptors when he shows up, which is huge because that's enough to one-shot a tank, now suddenly maybe you only have 1 disruptor when he shows up, or maybe you're still producing 1 if he shows up and attacks you with tanks. If he decides to go with, like, his first 2 tanks or something like that. But now you're still not scouting, though, with the sentry. We'll see. We'll just wait until you do. Okay, you just did it 6:30 or 6:28. So you're gonna get to his base probably like 6:46, I would say, because it has moved already a little bit. But what it's at, okay. It's going off like a little bit of a turn, but yeah, it's okay. I don't care.
I saw his Hellions off a little bit of vision, so I just wanted to double check that he wasn't pushing me right now.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't mind. I just want you to scout. I don't mind if you do like a detour like this and you're like just confirming things. Because realistically, that's going to be like a 4-second detour or like a 5-second detour, because the Phoenix is so fucking fast. So I do not mind at all. That's fine. I just the Phoenix being the spell being used to make this thing is literally like 90 seconds late, or about like 80 seconds late. It's very late. So now you're not figuring out what he's doing until he's already going to have like 3 tanks. He already has 2 done, and he could have a 3rd one in production. Now you have no idea that his stim pack was as delayed as it was. Like, you would think maybe this is combat shield being started, because you didn't realize that he prioritized, like, because the thing is looking at this now, because it's so late, you can't actually tell if it was 3cc before command center or command center first, after the 111. You don't know. That's why scouting on proper times is huge, because you actually can tell what was made first, but now you don't know. You might just think that the Terran's playing super safe if he did take its 3rd command center before his 3 racks, which is exactly what he did, because by the time you get here, the orbital is going to be done. But you won't actually know if that was, again, like just recently finishing, or if he's had the command center for a while now. Because again, the whole thing about it is all of his add-ons are done, all of his production's done, and his command center is done. So you don't know which was first, and that puts, and the only way you can judge what was first then is army size. And I'm going to tell you right now, his army size should be bigger if it was racks first. So, then you'd have to add an extra element to your scout, which would be pay attention to his army size. Once you don't know how, like, what was made first, and then the only other way to scout that as well would be count his SCVs. Like, does he have an excessive amount of SCVs on that natural, and is he about to transfer like fucking 12 SCVs to his 3rd? Or does he have an excessive army size? And if he doesn't have either, then, then you might be missing something, or he might just be playing inefficient. So it just creates more problems if you don't scout on proper times, is all I'm trying to say. It makes it way more difficult to understand what's actually happening.
Okay.
But just to make it not confusing, yeah, just get in the habit of always trying to scout as fast as you can. And like I said before, the 3 things, again, these are like the golden rules for your first. And your first scout is always, like, what's his opener going to be? Is it going to be like really, really heavy pressure, or is it going to be light harassment? And he opened this game with what I would call light harassment to you, because it was Hellion Liberator, which is not that scary if you just block your probes out with like a stalker here and there. So he opened light harassment. That's what he chose. And then your second scout confirms, is it going to be all in, like really heavy aggressive timing? Is it going to be tank based? And is it going to be Byromech? Or like greedy? Like, 3rd CC first or not? Those things. Command center timing huge. the fact that he makes the fact that he makes barracks now or factories is huge, and the fact that he makes tanks or not is huge.
Okay.
Alright, and then going forward. So this is when, like, these pylons right here. So we're looking at your scout right now, and you see it is tank based, and you saw everything we just talked about. I would definitely say, because of especially because of the, like, no matter what, just always, it doesn't even have to be just tank based. Once you get your third saturated like this, and you're starting to build those pylons like on the top of your main, and even more like, well, yeah, no, basically the pylons on top of your main. I thought you were building pylons on the bottom of your main, but those are cannons. Start building pylons, like I said before, like now at this point, if you had an observer there, okay, and you have your other observer in bottom right, which of your main, which I like a lot, you could build a pylon there, and there, and that would be it. That'd be all you need, because you have the observers as the edges of your net for drops as well, and that would be great.
Okay.
I'd fucking love that. And then if you expanded like, you know, to top left, you could move that observer that is there to now like right there. Stuff like that. And now suddenly your net is like all the way across the whole middle of the map. And then as you expand further out, like, you know, let's say you take this base right here and the just below bottom left of your main, you could build a new pylon like right there, and another pylon could be like right there, while your observer could now move down to like right there or something. You just like you like crawl forward with like a pylon net and then observers on the sides.
Okay.
And what you could do too is once you get to the ideal amount of units that you need to defend yourself, out of the robo, you could go back into making observers periodically to then run into his army with, and to go scout his actual army movements and like his where he is. So if you just go straight Colossus, because there's no tanks, 4 Colossus and then go back into observer, and you can make up to like 4 observers as well. So you have 2 on they have like, or like 5 observers even. So you have like 2 on the edges of your base. You have 1 or 2 in your army, and then you have 1 observer that kind of roams around his rally points and goes, "Where's your army at?" Like, and your final observer could be like right there. You know what I'm saying? Like right over his army.
Right.
So that could be what you do if you go Colossus. If you go Disruptor, like what this game would be, because he has, if you would have reacted with Disruptor against tanks, just know this too, Disruptor is good versus timings, but once you have charge, Disruptor doesn't really need to be made anymore. Just so you know. So again, your timings are all delayed too because of the amount of gateways you made.
Right.
But just know you can make like you can literally make like 2 or 3 Disruptors and then go back into making Colossus, and it's fine, because it's only for the early game. It's to keep yourself alive before you have Blink and Charge. That's it. It's not because like you always need to make them because he's going tanks. Once you have charge, you're just like, oh, charge lots, go kill tanks. Cool, the tanks are dead. The charge lots just like shit on tanks.
Yeah, they do.
So yeah, just know that is an early game thing only, which is why that scout is so critical.
Okay.
Okay, now he shows up, and if you had a pylon net right now, you would know this. But this is going to be, and he's also pulling you back with his Liberator, which means he's definitely setting up on you well, pretty well now. Best thing you could do here would be, if you just knew it was coming, if you walked into his army right now, you would probably win that fight. And then you could have like 1 Stalker warp in on like this left side of your Nexus over here and just kill that Liberator over time. And just kind of be like, yeah, I know I can't mine for a second, but the priority right now is definitely getting rid of this army that's pushing me.
Okay. Because, yeah. Then I'm, like, out of position.
Yeah. Well, like, the fact that he walked into you so deeply right there, like, he just walked his whole army at your face. That's huge. And then he's not sieged right now. So, just imagine these 2 Stalkers shooting this tank repeatedly. Imagine if, like, that was all your Stalkers too, and you just popped a tank and popped a second tank, and then by the time he actually gets a shot off with his tanks, you've already killed 2 tanks. So he only shoots you with half the amount of tanks, and then your Stalkers could just finish off the rest of the tanks, and it's not that scary anymore because you're already there as well. So he gets 1 shot off with a 3rd tank, you kill it. He gets a 2nd shot off with the 4th tank, you kill it. And meanwhile, your Colossus are just like roasting the shit out of his bio over here. But now what I see is going to happen is you're probably going to back up, because if you don't, your whole army's going to die, because your Zealots and your Sentries and your Colossus would die as the stalkers try to go help. Because the DPS of this is going to be insane now, because you're not going to kill any of the tanks before they shoot. Maybe the first tank will die. But then the fact that he's shredding all of your zealots and your stalkers aren't using that time while the zealots are dying to kill the tanks, that's huge too, because he's now going to still have tanks alive. So what I think is going to happen is you'll back up, you'll get shot a couple times, you'll then try to re-engage with your zealots in your natural. But if you mistime that at all, you're going to take more losses as well there that don't need to be taken. But the scariest thing of all is that he's already sieged now, so he's going to always shoot you repeatedly with these tanks, and it's going to be fucking annoying for you.
Yeah.
And yeah, now that both your Colossus are... Okay, well, that one lived with 2 hit points. Oh my god.
The luckiest Colossus ever.
That right there already is like... You kind of lost the game there.
Yep.
Because
Yep, I did.
You just lost your AoE before he lost his bio. And if that ever happens, you just die. It's kind of crazy. The only way you would win this fight now is if you had a charge. And you don't even have Blink yet. The Blink is still almost done. So, because the only way you'd win now, and it's the reason why I say is because if you have charge, is because the majority of his DPS here is tank based. And I guess if you had Disruptor too, that would also work. But if you're just going to be walking into him with slow stalkers and slow zealots, he's just going to pound you with his bio and cover his tanks repeatedly and take such good trades.
Yeah.
And you also walked out of shield battery range right there, which
Yep.
you don't really have a lot of options here. But yeah, if the Terran ever walks his army like that into the center of your base, that's why pylon net super big. But honestly, dude, you like a lot of this stuff about this game. If you just cleaned up like the chronos, and you cleaned up like the timings of stuff, and you just cleaned up the reactions, the reads, all the stuff we talked about, like up to this point, you would have run his ass over if you had read it the way we talked about. Like just imagine you had a pylon net. Imagine you knew he was going for tanks. Imagine you made 2 disruptors because you're like, yeah, 2 disruptors kills a tank, and I'm just going to make 2 disruptors because he could open with the tank timing, and then I'll go right back into Colossus. Let's say you have two disruptors and 1 Colossus already out by the time he hits you. Or realistically, it was almost at 9 minutes when he hit you. It was like 8:30. So let's say you actually realistically had like 2 Colossus and 2 disruptors out because your robo is so delayed. All that stuff was super delayed. So let's say you see him coming at your base. You have 2 Disruptor and 2 Colossus, and you have your Zealot Stalker. And then you go, okay, he's coming right there. And you throw 2 Disruptor shots at his tanks. Best case scenario, you just kill all of his tanks because they were clumped up as he engaged you. All of them were clumped.
Yeah, no. Yeah, if I had 2 Disruptors, like, I would just one-shot his entire army there.
Yeah. Like, you could just, like, guaranteed you could kill, right there. They're all so clumped right now. Just, like, 2 Disruptor shots coming from, like, the left side of, like, up down below where your Colossus are right now. Just blow up those tanks, because you would see where he's coming from, so you could set it up, ideally, defensively. And then if that actually happened, this fight's over. And you just walk at him and he dies. Or, let's say, right now, you have 2 Disruptors coming with your Colossus right now, and he exposes his tanks this hard, and he hits siege mode. And you're like, cool, Disruptor shots, and you hit 3 out of those 4 tanks in the front. Because the thing about siege and the thing about no siege is, just so you know for sure, if you have a Disruptor shot, shoot a tank, and it is not sieged, Disruptor shots can go underneath the tanks and blow them up. But if you shoot a Disruptor shot at a tank that is currently sieging, or it is sieged, if it's in the process of sieging, or it's now sieged up already, it actually acts like a building with pathing, and your Disruptor shot cannot actually go underneath it anymore. It has to go around it, and it can touch the side of it. So you can no longer kill all 4, because you couldn't get underneath the center 2. But what you could do is you could touch the middle one out of the 3, how it has kind of like that triangle, you know what I'm saying, where there's like 1 above, 1 below, and 1 in the center of the 2.
Yep.
You could, if you shot 2 Disruptor shots in the center of those 3 tanks, you could kill 3 out of 4 tanks. But yeah, you can't actually move Disruptor shots underneath a tank once it's sieged.
Interesting.
But and also a siege tank is the only unit in the entire game that does that. Nothing else does that pathing other than a tank. And I don't know if Blizzard does that on purpose. Maybe they think it's OP if you can just AoE sieged up tanks. But I don't know. I feel like that's a bug that never got fixed, honestly. Yeah. So you clean it up eventually, but at the cost of you
yeah.
took a lot of
I mean, the
damage
game's
there.
over at this point.
Yeah.
There's
Like
no way.
you're actually very far behind. You still, I would say this. If you ever find yourself in a position where you're like, fuck, I took so much damage. I'm not dead yet, but that was a lot of damage. I love that you already made the Templar Archives. The reaction now for you should be, also love that you're chronoing Colossus out. It should be chronoing out AoE. You should also start a Storm upgrade and start chronoing that, and you should start spending your gas on nothing but Templars and Zealots. So gas on Templar, the rest of it on Zealots.
Okay.
Because if you actually had Storm and Colossus, for the next time he hits you, the only chance you have right now of winning this game is getting that super sweet Storm and having Colossus like clean up the rest. That's the only way, because you're going to be down by like 30, 40 supply every time you fight from now on, or more, because that was massive damage he just did to you.
Yeah.
But I mean, he didn't kill your economy that much, so you can recover faster that way, but he reset your entire army.
Yep. Do you think it's worth it continuing 2-2, or should I just stop and chrono out Storm and Colossus only?
If you're behind, it's AoE.
Okay.
You're like, if you're in an ideal situation when you're ahead, you should just let those things kind of gradually come and then go into 3-3, because 3-3 is a very powerful timing. But the thing about chronoing out Storm is if you chrono out your 2-2 now, like you can see it's not even close to being done. It's such a long upgrade, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yep.
and then if you have 2-2 and then you're going to start 3-3, it's not going to help the most if you're still down, because it creates a situation again where you have like a brute force army. Like I would rather you have 1-1 Zealots versus 10 Marines, because you just had 6 Templar with Storm and like 3 Colossus that just killed like 50 Marines straight up, than having 2-2 and having twice the amount of Zealots. So instead of having 10 Zealots, now you have 20 Zealots, but you're still fighting like 50 Marines with also like 1-1 or 2-2. So like your Zealots are just running into this like meat grinder either way. And it doesn't matter if they just because they have 1 extra armor upgrade, if you somehow got that, it's not going to change the fight for you because you're still outnumbered severely. But
Okay.
so AoE definitely is a priority just because of how outnumbered in supply you're going to be, because you can reset that supply super fast if you just get the sickest fucking Storm off and you're like, wow, I just wiped out like 80% of his bio in like 2 seconds because he walked into Storm Colossus. And worst case scenario is if you actually still chrono out the forges and like you spent the last minute chronoing your forges and your upgrades are still 20 seconds out and he hits you and you're like, oh fuck, well I don't even have 2-2 and now I have to take the fight and I am waiting for it, but if I don't go now my Nexus is going to die and all my probes are going to die. And then, so it puts you in a spot where it's like, it's almost like worthless that you chronoed out your forges at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But chroning your forges when the game is going normal is fine, because even if you're in that spot where he's going to do a timing right before your 2-2's done, you're not going to be 90 supply versus 128. You're going to be 128 versus 128 or something. You're going to be like even with him. So you have enough to just run into his face and be like, yeah, let's go. And I'll fuck you up just like you'll fuck me up. And it'll go either way. And then if you have like batteries there as well with Guardian Shield, like suddenly that's like, holy crap, I'm just gonna run him over, because that's like a super strong counter to like, it's like a super strong additional buff to my army in the fight. But yeah, like if you're severely behind, you have to have AoE. That's the only way you recover.
Yeah. Good to know. Yeah, that's just. I actually have no idea how I don't just die here.
It's because he chases your Colossus and he allows his tanks to die. But again, like even though you're not dead, I obviously you still know you're taking tons of damage though, and you're like, okay, well I'm gonna die because I haven't touched this guy's economy, and I know he has 3 bases, and who knows, maybe he has 4 now. And while this is what Terran does as well, is they just rally point their army out, and while they're doing a timing, and they just hold down A key for Marines and stuff, and make more units, else like tanks, Marauder, or you know what I mean, they're just making a new army. By the time their timing is done, they're going to look at their base and be like, I got another one. And that's exactly what he has above his 3rd. He could literally bring this over and kill you right now if he just walked across the map. And then, yeah. Same thing again. The only way you're going to win this is with AoE. And AoE would crush this guy because he's not using Ghost. Which is why I was saying you're probably not going to find yourself in that situation where you have to make disruptors late game against Terran until you start getting like 5k plus. Because the thing about it is I talked to you about the Stargate transition, right?
Yes.
Yeah, if you get to that Stargate transition and they still haven't made Ghost yet, you don't need to make disruptors ever. That Stargate transition is God mode. That's like God tier. That is the supreme Protoss right there. But if you find yourself feeling pressured and you're like, holy fuck, I'm gonna die. This guy is like EMPing me like crazy. He's always shutting down my Templar, and he's got so many Viking. I can't actually make it to Stargate yet. That's when you need to go disruptors at that point in the game. When your opponent's really putting you under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I was able to get to the mass carrier transition in another game, and I went blink DTs because he was going like Thors.
Yeah.
And I just ran him over.
Yeah, no, exactly. It feels so good. That's like, if you can get there with Protoss, that's why Protoss versus Terran feels so good for Protoss, because that is like a win condition. You're just like, if I can make it there, like I don't mind if he's playing defensive and he's turtling, and I'm over here doing my thing, because I have that win condition army that if I get there, the level of difficulty for him to play against me just went from like a 5 out of 10 to like a 10 out of 10. Like I'm such a scarier opponent when I have that Stargate army. Yeah, and then yeah, you just kept getting progressively run down more and more and more. But
Yeah.
overall, if you fix up the build, especially your AoE, your robos and your chronos, I see a lot of progress for you for sure. And then always, I would say you don't really need to make double batteries at your third. Just make the one on, and like the one below your nexus is perfect, because it gives you like, it's close to the nexus, so it's still kind of safe, but it's also kind of far out, so you can actually stretch your Colossus further away from the nexus to still be healed while he focus fires them. The ones that are tucked deeper in the mineral line, they're more centered for the probes, and that's not really appropriate, because that would mean that you'd have to like, positionally, you'd have to compromise your nexus harder to actually utilize that battery, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then that battery, even though where it is, it can still heal the probes in the middle line, because it can heal just on the other side of the nexus whenever the probes touch it, if there's like a Banshee or something like that shooting them, so it has a chance to also pick probes up here and there. But ideally, you're going to kill, like, yeah, like if there's like a Banshee or something, you should be dealing with your army anyways, because that battery should only be designed for like stopping the bio push with tanks or something, like the first one that hits you. And then, yeah, cleaning up your chronos for real, that's the big one. But do you have any questions about anything we talked about? Anything at all that you're not sure about?
No, I think it's literally like the chrono advice was like super helpful, because I think that's something I mess up a lot. I don't know when, like especially like the first like 3 or 4 chronos are incredibly huge for setting up the build. That I feel like I get really frustrated playing against, even though like this is like low masters. I feel like I get really frustrated playing against these players because I see like their build is not efficient, and like I could totally be running them over, and I just don't know where I'm not getting a lead. But the chronos make a big.
And also the fact that you made a ton of gates early. So I don't mind that you make gates 2 and 3. Just make gates 2 and 3 always at the ramp in front of your natural every single time, always. So that if you do scout with your sentry, harass based Terran, leave a stalker in my door, and then have the other stalkers centralized on the ramp. And if it is going to be pressure heavier, I'd say he liberates your door, and he makes your stalkers back up, and then he walks Hellions inside. Well, then use your units to use that to go fight against that. But if he doesn't do that, and he drops your main simultaneously while trying to hit the natural, now you're way better off, because you can actually get around your base and defend it way easier. So scout timings are huge for you too, to figure out what's going on. Don't be afraid to try going for like literally like 2 disruptors or so if it's a tank timing. And then everything else just optimizing your chronos, and then I would say, because you're going 3 gates, stay on 3 gates until after you make your forges and council. So you go 3 gates all the way until you're like starting your 4th base essentially. Because you're going to be starting your councils and your forges, or your council and your double forge, and then eventually your Templar archives when you're on your 3rd base. Your 3rd base will saturate really fast. Start your 4th base, just start it when your 3rd base is well saturated, like when it has like 16 plus. So when you're starting to saturate the gas, just start your 4th, and then start like an extra like 7 gates as you can afford it. Go all the way to like 10 gateways. So your gateway count will just fucking explode, and right around the time when your gateway count explodes is right around the time when you're going to be making zealots.
Okay. That makes sense.
And then yeah, and then you'll be great because you're definitely a lot of your costs early game are very centralized around your AoE, like your Colossus, your Disruptor, and then Stalkers to support.
Okay.
So making too many gates it really hinders your AoE too because it makes it you have other costs that you have to invest into. All right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Hell yeah, dude. I think you're gonna you know, seeing your first attempts at these kinds of builds because I know you weren't doing this stuff before and now you are. Definitely clean up your early game and you're gonna you have the very high potential to run people over. Like simple fixes for you, I would say.
Sick.
All right, dude. Well, dude, thank you very much for doing another coaching lesson. And until next time, you know, I'll give you the VOD too again by probably tomorrow, so you can always watch it again if you want to.
Cool.
All right, man. Well, take it easy. Good luck. And yeah, I'll see you around on stream, or I'll see you next time.
Yeah, catch you later.
See you, dude. All right, guys. This has been another coaching lesson with Mr. Dive, Masters Protoss. Thank you very much for doing it, dude. And guys, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, check out more videos. Have tons of them, always. And yeah. Until the next video, everybody. Good luck to you as well, and I'll see you then. Peace, guys.